Could all three Spyros be canon? Let's find out. What's up guys, Canadian Guy A here. So an argument people have had about the Spyro universe is that which Spyro is canon? Is it OG Spyro, Legend Spyro, or perhaps Skylander Spyro? See, they are all three different dragons. There can only be one, right?
There can be only one.
So most people default to the original Spyro as canon, but that Spyro didn't have much in terms of story. The Legend of Spyro, however, had a much deeper story, a much deeper sense of writing as well. So some say that the Legend of Spyro bumps out the original Spyro as canon because of that. However, some think that Skylander Spyro is a new canon because he is the newest. The Legend of Spyro was Spyro's planned reboot, but Skylander Spyro is the reboot of the original reboot. So Legend of Spyro bumps out the original, and Skylander bumps out the Legend of Spyro. Now we can whine and complain all we want and point our fingers at our favorite version and say that that's the one that's canon. We can't go on feelings alone, however. We need to try to figure out facts and come up with ideas. So I looked into each game trying to figure out which one could be called the new canon. After hours upon hours upon hours of playing Spyro games, I came to a realization. What if they were all canon? How is this possible? How could there be three Spyros and all three are considered canon? Well, the first theory I had actually was based a little bit on the idea of different dimensions. And the theory that in each dimension there is a version of oneself that slightly varies and continues to add variance until it either doesn't exist anymore or becomes something completely different. The amount of dimensions can be infinite. So what if this was just three different Spyros from three different dimensions? Sure, but that was really just a cop-out. It didn't seem logical. It didn't connect anything. So I scrapped that and went to the next theory. What about a different timeline? What if this was three different timelines and Spyro was born differently in each one? Hence the name of the cover of his first The Legend of Spyro game, A New Beginning. A new start entirely, a new setup. But again, I came to the same result as the dimension theory, a cop-out. I was running in circles, I was not getting anywhere looking at the lore of both the original and Skylander Spyro, so I turned to the Legend of Spyro. I'm going to explain a bunch from this game, so massive spoiler warning, even though these games have been out for 10 years. Before we hop into the Legend of Spyro, we need to hop into both Enter the Dragonfly and Shadow Legacy. So in Shadow Legacy, Spyro enters an area of dark magic. While it affects everyone else, it doesn't affect him. That's when Zoe tells Spyro that the dark magic doesn't affect him because he is a rare breed of dragon. A purple dragon, in fact. Now in Enter the Dragonfly, Spyro has the ability to breathe different types of breaths, from fire, lightning, ice, and even bubble breath as well. Okay, so now let's hop back into Legend of Spyro. They call Spyro special because he is a purple dragon. A purple dragon can master all elements, unlike other dragons that can only master a single element. Even in Skylanders, it is said that Spyro can learn different elemental breaths, but prefers to use fire. Okay, so we got our first connections here. I'll explain why. In the beginning of, A New Beginning, Ignatius tells Spyro that there is a prophecy, that Spyro was a prophetic dragon, that every 10 generations a purple dragon is born. It is said that it will lead the dragons into a new era. When we find out, through a character called the Chronicler, who pretty much is the guardian and record keeper of all dragon time, that there have only been 2 purple dragons, and the first one is the main antagonist, Malefor, who, like Spyro, mastered the different elements. Malefor had first mastered fire, like Spyro, and all the other elements in the same order. Malefor was groomed by the Guardians and greatly loved, but he wanted more. He began to do evil things and wouldn't stop, so the Guardians sent him on exile. He then discovered Dark Ether, a new element. It gave him immense power but corrupted him to the core, becoming truly evil. Spyro was also touched by this dark ether and was uncontrollable and evil, but shortly after turned back to normal after talking with Cynder. Why? According to a previous employee, the dark ether could be settled if there was a positive emotion and overwhelmed it, like love. So yes, Spyro loved Cynder, but Spyro can activate this dark power whenever he wants. but he surrenders control of himself. Skylander Spyro can also do this. He can activate his dark form, ironically called Dark Spyro. When Spyro gets to Malefor, we can see that Malefor follows the same color scheme as Spyro, with the same basic design. With, well, more horns of course, because, you know, evil villains have more horns. When Malefor talks to Spyro, he says, "It seems we share other qualities besides that of our color."
It seems we share other qualities besides that of our color.
No, I'm nothing like you.
Do you think so? We'll get to that.
So, what am I getting at? What is my theory? Dimensional? Timeline? How else could they all exist and all be canon? Actually, neither of those theories. I believe it is all one timeline. How, you might ask? By me proposing the Rebirth theory. See, Spyro would almost be like a phoenix. He is reborn every 10 generations, or 1,000 years.
Because the prophecies spoke of a purple dragon. A dragon born only once every 10 generations. You.
Each Spyro is the same, but is a different Spyro in the timeline. Same soul, new dragon. This means that Malefor could be the original version of Spyro. However, Ignitus believes that Spyro was created to balance nature, to counter the evil of Malefor.
Your existence is nature's way of balancing itself.
This theory would bring all three Spyros together under one timeline. Now you might be thinking, well, that's a theory alright, but unfortunately there are no other connections whatsoever other than this theory, and that's where you are wrong. At the end of the third game, we see Spyro sacrificing himself, but he's alive later. This part confuses me, but we're going to put a pin in it. But nonetheless, he saves the world and reverses the planet from exploding. Well, somewhat. When everyone walks out, we see floating islands in the sky, shaped and looking almost exactly like Skylands. And remember, the purple dragon is supposed to lead the dawn of the new age, the dawn of Skylanders. When we go to the Book of the Chronicler, we can see that everyone is adjusting to the new floating islands and building upon them. Now, Skylander Spyro is much younger than Legend of Spyro. He has a new look and a new voice, yet this is clear evidence that Legend and Skylander Spyro are connected in the same timeline. How could it be possible that there are two Spyros? Well, Skylander Spyro would be born almost 1,000 years later. Legend of Spyro would be long gone, or so we would assume. That would mean that something will happen in the Skylander universe that will make Sky Spyro lead everyone to a new age. Then once again, another 1,000 years later, Spyro would be reborn again. At the end of Dawn of the Dragon, the Chronicler explains to Ignitus, before he becomes a new Chronicler, that each time a dragon dies, they are put into a book, but he could not find Spyro. But how could it be possible that Spyro survived? He literally was in the middle of an exploding volcano that was going to destroy the Earth. He used magic and saved the world from being destroyed, sure, but nonetheless, he was in a volcano. On top of that, the spirit of Ignitus tells Spyro that a dragon never truly dies, but becomes one with nature itself, offering it a future.
Spyro, when a dragon dies, he does not truly leave this world. His spirit lives on, binding itself with nature, offering hope for the future.
So Spyro saving the world is him dying in a sense and improving it. So Spyro died because his spirit saved the world. But apply the Rebirth theory and Spyro never actually really dies. Like a phoenix, he is reborn again. This is why they can't not find Spyro in the book. So technically speaking, Spyro is immortal. But let's say for fun that Spyro did survive because he's the mystical purple dragon. How did Cynder survive? After we do a cross zoom into Chronicler Ignitus' crystal and see Spyro and Cynder frolicking together, many have debated what this means. Some say that they are in Avalar, some say they are in heaven. I'm going to put a pin in this and come back to this later. So if there were a timeline, it would go Legend of Spyro, then Skylander Spyro. So here's a question, where does OG Spyro go? Does he go after the events of Skylanders, or does he go before the Legend series? Well, at first I actually put OG Spyro after Skylanders, but something was not right. Something was wrong. The Chronicler and Ignitus believed that there were only two purple dragons in history, but Malefor told Spyro that it was a lie, that there were more before him. So who's correct here? How do we figure out who's right? That is where we turn to Cynder. Why is Cynder important? Because she proves that Malefor was correct. How? Because she's in Skylanders. Why does Cynder being in Skylanders prove anything? Actually, the correct question should be, how is she even in Skylanders? See, in the beginning of Dawn of the Dragon, they were both given evil snake charms that bind them together. It was a chain that they could not break. It was magical. When they meet up with Ignitus, he told them that the magic chain was not a hindrance, but a bond that they share. Now remember, that point I put a pin in? This is where it comes back. When Spyro is saving the world, he tells Cynder to leave. She says no. She tells him that she is with him, and that she loves him. Now remember those snake charms? They bound them together using magic. Normally Cynder would have died and Spyro would have been reborn 1,000 years later, but because of these amulets, Cynder's soul is now bound with Spyro's forever. That means when Spyro is reborn, Cynder is as well. They literally are eternal lovers, which is adorable if you think about it, but that is why she comes back in Skylanders. She is reborn with Spyro. When we see them flying together, that is their souls frolicking and enjoying themselves as they wait to be reborn. Now some of you might stand up and say, now hold on, after Malefor was defeated, the snake charms disappeared. Yeah, but throughout the game they appeared and disappeared for no reason. There was no significant showing of the charms being broken. They disappeared like every other time. While the counter argument might be, well, they were created by Malefor and he died, so that would mean that they would be destroyed. Not necessarily. Just because he was killed does not mean that they are automatically unlinked. It's just that he knows how to unlink them. Also, when Malefor was talking to both Spyro and Cynder, he actually removed the amulets. They turn blue and explode with a nice blue particles. After Spyro refused to fight Cynder and Cynder turned back to normal, like how Spyro turned back to normal before because of the overwhelming positive emotion of love for Cynder, Malefor gets angry and puts the amulets back on. When Malefor is defeated, they disappear like every other time in the game. Also, Malefor did not die. He was sealed away because he comes back in the Skylanders comics, so even if the argument of his death of breaking the locks is true, he is not dead. Now, even if the chains were broken, Cynder was standing right beside Spyro the whole time. She had also developed a bond with Spyro like Ignitus said that the chains represented. It's possible that as Spyro's spirit was taken for the Rebirth, that hers was taken as well. Phew, this is a lot of info. Okay, so remember Malefor said that there were many before him, but Ignitus and the Chronicler said that there were only 2? Well, Cynder proves Malefor to be correct because she is not with OG Spyro. If she was bound with Spyro forever and OG Spyro took place after the events of Skylanders, then Cynder would be with him, but she is not in the OG Spyro's world. This proves Malefor correct as there were other purple dragons before him, so OG Spyro came before Legend of Spyro. This also means that something happened in OG Spyro. As he grew older, something happens that results in the prophecy of the purple dragon, where there will be one born every 1,000 years, so his soul is permanently preserved. But this raises another issue. Does that mean Malefor is a corrupted version of Spyro? Actually, yes. This is when the comments flow in, aha! How could Spyro and Malefor share the same spirit? Which is an awesome question which I have 2 answers for. When Malefor learned of the Dark Ether, he embraced it. He learned and grew more powerful at the expense of his soul. When he was trapped in the Well of Souls, one of 2 things happened. In the Skylanders world, Malefor has a title, Malefor, the Undead Dragon King. Now when the term undead is used, it means that the creature is soulless, but is still animated by an outside source. Basically, Malefor is living as the embodiment of Dark Ether, which means when he's put into the Well of Souls, he lost his, well, soul. That soul was reborn in Legend of Spyro. The second option is that Malefor still has a soul, but it was corrupted. Ignitus had said that nature created Spyro to balance the evil from Malefor, which could mean that in order to continue the prophecy that was set, nature created another soul of Spyro, a purified version of Malefor's. Which one of these are true? I am not sure. But if this theory is canon, that means that all 3 Spyros can exist within the same timeline and can share and continue the 3 separate games. But this concludes my rebirth theory of Spyro the Dragon. This was a big one, guys, so what do you think? Does this theory have legs, or is it straight up blah? Comment below and let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye!